Tonight, you die. Liora Hale knelt on the frozen snow, blood dripping from her mouth, while the entire pack stood around watching her like an animal about to be slaughtered. The man holding the iron whip raised his hand for the final blow, but a dark shadow emerged from the forest, a voice cold as ice cutting through the air. "Lower your hand. She's mine." It wasn't a plea. It was a command from the man the entire kingdom feared. Liora looked up and saw the golden eyes of an alpha she never thought she'd meet. This is the story of a cursed girl who became a queen. Stay until the end, hit like, and let me know what city you're watching from. The first thing Liora Hale learned in life was how to bleed quietly. Not because she wanted to, but because if you screamed, they hit you harder. She was 12 the first time they made her take someone else's wound. A hunter named Garth had come back from the woods with his leg half shredded by a bear trap. The pack healer, a wiry woman with cold hands and colder eyes, had shoved Liora forward and said, "Touch him." Liora had hesitated. She didn't understand. Touch. Him. So she did. The moment her palm pressed against Garth's mangled calf, the world turned inside out. Pain exploded through her own leg, white-hot, bone-deep, unbearable. She collapsed, screaming, and when she looked down, her skin was torn open in the exact same place his had been. Garth's leg? Perfectly healed. He'd stood up, flexed his knee, and walked away without a word. Liora had lain on the floor of the healer's hut for 3 days before the wound closed on its own. No one helped her. No one brought her water. When she finally dragged herself back to the pack hall, the other kids threw stones at her and called her freak curse monster. That was 10 years ago. Now, at 22, Liora had stopped counting the scars. The Hale pack wasn't large. Maybe 200 wolves spread across the northern frontier, where the forests were dense and the winters were brutal. They lived in a collection of timber lodges clustered around a central hall, all of it surrounded by a wooden palisade that kept out the wild things. Or tried to. Liora didn't live inside the palisade. She lived in a shack at the edge of the clearing, barely big enough to stand up in, with gaps in the walls wide enough to let the snow blow through. No fire, no bed, just a heap of rags in the corner and a bucket she used for water when the stream didn't freeze over. She wasn't allowed inside the main hall unless someone was sick or injured. Then they'd drag her in, force her to touch whoever needed healing, and kick her back out the moment it was done. They never said thank you. They never even looked at her. To them, she wasn't a person. She was a tool, a thing, a necessary evil. And the worst part, she couldn't leave. She'd tried once, when she was 16, made it 3 miles into the woods before the pack hunters caught her and dragged her back by her hair. The alpha at the time, a man named Torvin, who smelled like smoke and rotting meat, had beaten her in front of everyone and told her that if she ever tried to run again, he'd let the whole pack take turns. She never ran again. Man, it was the middle of winter now and the pack was on edge. There'd been attacks. Not from rival packs. Those were expected. These were different. Faster. More vicious. Whole hunting parties going out and only half coming back, torn apart by something that moved too quick to see and left nothing behind but blood in the snow. The new alpha, a man named Calder, who'd killed Torvan in a challenge 2 years ago, was paranoid. He doubled the patrols, tripled the guard rotations, and made it clear that anyone who showed weakness would be cast out, which meant more injuries, which meant more work for Liora. In the past week alone, she'd absorbed a broken arm, a dislocated shoulder, 3 stab wounds, and a fever so violent it left her hallucinating for 2 days. Her body was a patchwork of half-healed wounds and bruises that never quite faded, and no one cared. She was emptying her water bucket behind the shack when she heard the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, coming straight toward her. She turned and saw Calder. He was a big man, broad-shouldered and scarred, with a face like a clenched fist. His eyes were pale gray, the kind that looked through you instead of at you. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just stood there, arms crossed, staring at her like she was something he was deciding whether or not to crush. Liora set the bucket down slowly. Her hands were shaking, but she forced them still. "Alpha, you're coming with me." Her stomach dropped. "Why?" "Don't ask questions." He grabbed her by the upper arm, hard enough to bruise, and dragged her toward the main hall. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and the smell of unwashed bodies. The pack was gathered, maybe 100 of them, standing in a loose circle around the center of the room. In the middle of the circle was a man Liora didn't recognize. He was tall, taller than Calder, with black hair tied back and a long coat that looked like it had seen 1,000 miles of hard travel. His face was sharp, all angles and shadow, and his eyes were a gold so bright they almost glowed in the firelight. He looked at her the moment she walked in, not through her, at her. It made her skin prickle. Calder shoved her forward. She stumbled, caught herself, and stayed on her knees. It was safer that way. "This is her," the stranger said. His voice was low, quiet, but it carried. "Yeah," Calder spat into the fire. "The freak. She takes wounds. That's all she's good for." The stranger's eyes narrowed. "She's not Pack. She is what I say she is. She doesn't smell like Pack." Calder's jaw tightened. "You want to challenge me, Valkyr?" The room went dead silent. Leora's breath caught. Valkyr. She knew that name. Everyone did. Ronan Valkyr, the Wolf King, the Alpha of Alphas, the man who ruled the northern mountains with a fist so iron that even the most brutal packs didn't dare cross him. What the hell was he doing here? Ronan didn't answer Calder. He just stepped closer to Liora, crouched down, and looked her in the face. Up close she could see the scars, thin white lines across his jaw, his temple, the bridge of his nose. His eyes were unreadable. "What's your name?" She opened her mouth, closed it. No one ever asked her that. "Liora," she whispered. "Liora," he repeated, like he was testing it. Then quieter. "Do you want to be here?" The question hit her like a slap. She stared at him. Her throat felt tight. Her chest ached. "No." Ronan stood, turned to Calder. "I'm taking her." Calder laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Like hell you are. I'm not asking. You think you can just walk into my territory and take my property?" "She's not property." Ronan's voice didn't rise, didn't need to. "She's a person, and I'm offering you a trade. I don't need anything you've got." "Then you'll take nothing and lose her anyway." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Liora could feel the tension coiling tighter, tighter, like a rope about to snap. Calder's hand went to the knife at his belt. Ronan didn't move. "You really want to do this?" Calder said. "Not particularly, but I will." For a long moment, no one breathed. Then Calder smiled. It was the kind of smile that made Leora's stomach turn. "Fine. Take her. But first," he turned to one of his men. "Bring the chains." They dragged her outside. The whole pack followed, a jeering, laughing mob that spread out across the clearing like a pack of vultures. The snow was falling harder now, thick and wet, and the wind cut through Leora's thin clothes like knives. They chained her wrists to a post in the center of the clearing. The iron was so cold it burned. Calder stepped up beside her, holding a long iron rod with a leather-wrapped handle. It was the kind of thing you used to beat animals. "You want her?" he called out to Ronan. "Then you can watch what happens to thieves in my pack." Ronan was standing at the edge of the crowd, perfectly still. His face was stone. Calder raised the rod. Liora closed her eyes. The first blow hit her across the shoulders. The pain was immediate, blinding, and she bit down on her tongue so hard she tasted blood. The second blow hit her ribs. The third her back. She didn't scream. She'd learned a long time ago that screaming only made it last longer. But somewhere around the fifth blow, something inside her cracked. Not her body, something deeper. The part of her that had spent 10 years swallowing pain and fear and shame without letting any of it out. She opened her eyes, and she saw Ronan moving. Not fast, not loud, just there, suddenly, between her and Calder, his hand wrapped around the rod mid-swing. "Enough!" Calder tried to yank the rod free. Ronan didn't let go. "You had your fun," Ronan said quietly. "Now let her go." "Or what?" Ronan's grip tightened, the rod bent, then snapped. Calder stared at the broken pieces in his hand. Ronan stepped closer. "If you touch her again," he said, his voice so low only Calder could hear it, "I will come back here and burn this place to the ground. Do you understand me?" Calder's face went white. Ronan turned, walked to Liora, and snapped the chains with his bare hands like they were made of paper. She collapsed forward. He caught her. "Can you walk?" She nodded, even though she wasn't sure. "Good. Stay close." He wrapped his coat around her shoulders and started walking toward the trees. No one stopped them. Caught them. They walked for what felt like hours. Liora didn't know where they were going. She didn't ask. Her entire body hurt, and her mind was spinning too fast to make sense of anything. Finally, they stopped in a small clearing where the trees opened up enough to see the sky. The snow had stopped, and the moon was out, bright and cold. Ronan built a fire without a word, then sat down across from her and watched the flames. Liora pulled the coat tighter around herself. It smelled like leather and pine and something else she couldn't name. "Why did you do that?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "Because I need you." "For what?" "My brother is dying." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and final. "I don't understand," Liora said. Ronan finally looked at her. His eyes were tired, haunted. "He was poisoned 3 weeks ago. We've tried everything, healers, medicine, magic. Nothing works. The poison is unnatural. It's eating him from the inside out, and if we don't stop it soon, he's going to die." Leora's chest tightened. "And you think I can help? I know you can. How?" "Because you absorb wounds, sickness, pain. I've heard the stories. I know what you are." "I'm not—" She stopped, swallowed. "I'm not strong enough. If the poison is as bad as you say, it'll kill me." "Maybe." The bluntness of it shocked her. "You're asking me to die for someone I don't even know?" "No." Ronan leaned forward. "I'm asking you to try. And in return, I'll give you something no one else ever has." "What?" "A choice." Liora stared at him. "You can say no," he said. "You can walk away right now. I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Another pack, another territory, another country. You'll never have to see me or Calder or anyone from that place ever again. You'll be free." "And if I say yes?" "Then you come with me. You try to save my brother, and if you survive—" He paused. "If you survive, you stay as long as you want. No chains, no beatings. No one will ever force you to do anything again. You're lying. I'm not." "Why should I believe you?" "Because I have nothing to gain by lying to you." Liora wanted to argue, wanted to call him a liar, a manipulator, a monster just like all the others. But when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see cruelty. She saw desperation. And something else, something that looked almost like hope. She thought about Calder, about the shack, about 10 years of swallowing other people's pain and getting nothing in return but scars and shame. She thought about what it would feel like to choose something for herself, just once. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I want your word. No matter what happens, no matter if I succeed or fail, you won't force me to stay. You won't chain me. You won't treat me like a tool. You have it. Swear it, on your brother's life." Ronan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "I swear it. On Kael's life." Liora took a shaky breath. "Okay. Okay? I'll try." For the first time since she'd met him, Ronan smiled. It was small, barely there, but it was real. "Thank you." Liora didn't answer. She just stared at the fire and wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life, or the last one. They traveled for 3 days, north, into the mountains, where the air was thin and the cold bit deep enough to crack bone. Ronan didn't talk much, but he was careful with her. He made sure she ate, made sure she stayed warm, slowed down when she couldn't keep up. It was strange, unnerving even. No one had ever been careful with her before. On the 3rd night, they reached the stronghold. It wasn't like the pack hall she'd grown up in. This was a fortress carved into the side of a mountain, all black stone and iron gates and walls so high they disappeared into the mist. Torches burned along the battlements, and guards in dark armor stood at every entrance. Ronan led her through the gates without a word. People stared as they passed, but no one spoke. No one questioned. Inside, the stronghold was warm, almost too warm after days in the cold. The halls were wide and high-ceilinged, lined with tapestries and weapons and the bones of things Liora didn't recognize. They stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. Ronan turned to her. He's in there. I need to warn you. He doesn't look good. Liora nodded. He pushed the door open. The room inside was dim, lit only by a single lantern on a table beside the bed. The air smelled like sweat and sickness, and something sharper, more acrid, like burnt metal. In the bed was a man who looked like a shadow of Ronan. Same sharp features, same dark hair, but thinner, paler. His skin was gray, his lips cracked, and his breathing was shallow and uneven. His eyes were closed, but Liora could see the dark veins spreading out from beneath his shirt, crawling up his neck like black roots. Ronan moved to the side of the bed and placed a hand on his brother's shoulder. Kael, I brought someone. Kael's eyes opened. They were the same gold as Ronan's, but duller, faded. He looked at Liora. Who? Her name is Liora. She's going to try to help you. Kael's gaze shifted to Ronan. She's human. She's more than that. Kael studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, thin, bitter. You're going to kill her. No, Ronan said firmly. She's stronger than you think. Kael didn't argue. He just closed his eyes again. Ronan turned to Liora. Whenever you're ready. Liora stepped forward. Her hands were shaking. She'd taken wounds before. Sickness, fevers, broken bones. But this was different. She could feel it already, even from a few feet away. The poison. It was alive, writhing, hungry, and it wanted to spread. She sat down on the edge of the bed and reached for Kael's hand. The moment their skin touched, the world exploded. Pain. Not the sharp, clean pain of a broken bone or a cut. This was wrong. Invasive, like something crawling inside her veins, burning through her blood, shredding her from the inside out. She gasped, tried to pull away, but Ronan's hand was on her shoulder, holding her steady. Stay with him, Ronan said. Just a little longer. Liora gritted her teeth and held on. The poison fought her. It didn't want to leave Kael. It wanted to stay, to spread, to consume. But Liora was used to fighting. She closed her eyes and pulled. It felt like dragging broken glass through her body. Every nerve screamed, her vision blurred, her heartbeat stuttered. But slowly, so slowly, the black veins on Kael's neck began to fade, and new ones appeared on hers. She held on for as long as she could. Then the world went dark. When she woke, she was lying in a bed. Not her bed, a real bed. Soft, warm, clean. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then the pain hit, and she knew she wasn't. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Her entire body felt like it had been set on fire, doused, and set on fire again. Don't move. She turned her head, slowly, and saw Ronan sitting in a chair beside the bed. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. How long? She rasped. 2 days. Kael? Alive. Stable. The poison is still there, but it's weaker. You did that. Liora closed her eyes. Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by exhaustion. You need to rest, Ronan said. I need water. He handed her a cup. She drank it too fast and nearly choked. When she was done, she looked at him. Why are you still here? Where else would I be? I don't know. Running your kingdom, being important. He almost smiled. You're more important. I'm nobody. You're wrong. The certainty in his voice startled her. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You saved my brother's life. Do you understand what that means? It means I'm useful. It means you're brave and strong and worth more than every piece of shit in that pack who ever laid a hand on you. Liora didn't know what to say to that, so she didn't say anything. Ronan stood. Get some sleep. We'll talk more when you're stronger. He turned to leave. Ronan. He stopped. Thank you, she said quietly. He looked back at her. His expression was unreadable. Don't thank me yet. And then he was gone. Liora woke to the sound of voices arguing outside her door. She'd been drifting in and out of sleep for what felt like days. Her body too heavy to move, her mind too foggy to think straight. The poison she'd pulled from Kael was still inside her, sluggish and vicious, like something with teeth that refused to let go. But the voices cut through the haze, absolutely reckless, bringing her here. She saved his life. She's human, Ronan. She doesn't belong in this place, and you know it. She stays. For how long? Until she dies? Until the poison kills her? Or until someone here decides they've had enough of your charity project and does it for you? Liora forced her eyes open. The room was still dim, but morning light was seeping in through the cracks in the heavy curtains. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache, and her mouth tasted like copper. She tried to sit up, failed, tried again. This time she managed to prop herself against the headboard, breathing hard from the effort. The voices outside went quiet. Then the door opened. Ronan stepped in first. He looked worse than the last time she'd seen him. Darker circles under his eyes, his jaw tight, his shoulders rigid. Behind him was a woman Liora didn't recognize. Tall, sharp-featured, with silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a severe braid. She wore dark leather armor and carried herself like someone who could kill you 6 different ways before you hit the ground. Her eyes were ice blue and utterly cold. She looked at Liora the way you'd look at a stain on your boot. "This is her?" Ronan nodded. "Liora, this is Marin, my second in command." Marin didn't offer a hand, didn't smile, just stared. "She looks half dead." "She's recovering." "She's a liability." Ronan's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He turned to Liora instead. "How do you feel?" Liora wanted to say fine, but lying seemed pointless. "Like I got dragged behind a horse for 3 miles. Marin snorted. "At least she's honest." Ronan ignored her. He moved to the side of the bed, crouched down so he was at eye level with Liora. "The poison is still inside you. We've been trying to slow it down, but it's resistant. You need to let it go." "I don't know how." "You absorbed it. You can push it out." "I've never done that before." "Then you'll learn." Marin crossed her arms. "And if she can't? If the poison spreads, what then?" Ronan didn't look at her. "It won't." "You don't know that." "I know her." "You've known her for a week. That's enough." Marin's eyes flashed, but she didn't push further. She just turned and walked out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Liora exhaled shakily. "She hates me." "She doesn't trust easily. She thinks I'm going to die." Ronan's expression didn't change. "Are you?" Liora looked down at her hands. The black veins were still there, faint but visible, crawling up her wrists like cracks in porcelain. "I don't know." "Then we'll figure it out." He said it like it was simple, like death was just another problem to solve. Liora wanted to believe him, but she'd spent too many years learning that hope was dangerous. Over the next few days, Liora learned 3 things about Ronan Valkyr's stronghold. 1, it was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Hale Pack's territory, with halls that seemed to go on forever, and rooms she'd never even seen the inside of. There were training yards, armories, kitchens that could feed an army, libraries filled with books in languages she didn't recognize. It was more like a city than a fortress. 2, the people here were nothing like the Hale Pack. They were disciplined, organized, they moved with purpose, spoke with respect, and didn't waste time on cruelty for cruelty's sake. But they were also wary, suspicious. She could feel their eyes on her whenever she left her room, hear the whispers that followed her down the halls. Human, outsider, weak. 3, Kyle was getting better, slowly, painfully, but better. She saw him for the first time 4 days after she'd woken up. Ronan had brought her to his room, helped her into a chair beside the bed, and left them alone. Kale looked less like a corpse now. His skin still had a grayish tint, and the veins on his neck were still visible, but his eyes were clearer, sharper. He studied her for a long moment. "You're the one who saved me." Liora nodded. "Why?" The question caught her off guard. "Because Ronan asked me to." "That's not a reason. It's the only one I've got." Kale's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You're honest. I like that. Most people don't. Most people are idiots." This time Liora did smile. Just a little. Kyle shifted in the bed, wincing. "How bad is it? The poison." "Still there. I can feel it." "Can you get rid of it?" "I don't know." "Ronan thinks you can." "Ronan thinks a lot of things." Kyle laughed, a short, sharp sound that turned into a cough. When he stopped, He was breathing harder, but his eyes were amused. He likes you. Leora's face heated. He doesn't even know me. He knows enough. Kael's expression sobered. My brother doesn't trust easily, and he doesn't bring people here unless he has a reason. So whatever he sees in you, it's real. Liora didn't know what to say to that. Kael closed his eyes, exhaustion creeping back in. Thank you, he said quietly, for what you did. I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't, Liora admitted, but I'd do it again. Why? She thought about it. About Calder's shack. About 10 years of being used and discarded. About the way Ronan had looked at her in that clearing and asked if she wanted to be there. Because for the first time in my life, someone gave me a choice. Kael opened his eyes, looked at her. Then I hope you keep choosing to stay, he yawned. But staying wasn't as simple as she'd thought. The Stronghold's population didn't warm to her. If anything, they got colder. She heard the rumors, whispered in corners, muttered behind closed doors. She's human. She doesn't belong here. She's weak. A liability. Ronan's gone soft bringing her here. She'll get us all killed. And the worst one, the one that made her stomach twist. She's the reason the poison hasn't left Kael. She's keeping it inside herself on purpose. It wasn't true. She was trying, every day, every night, pushing against the poison, trying to force it out. But it clung to her like a parasite, burrowing deeper every time she tried to expel it. And people noticed. The black veins had spread. They were on her arms now, creeping up past her elbows. Her skin had taken on a grayish tint, and her appetite was gone. She forced herself to eat anyway, but everything tasted like ash. Maren was the worst. She didn't bother hiding her disdain. Every time Liora crossed her path, Maren found a way to make it clear she didn't belong. You're slowing us down. You're a distraction. You should leave before you make things worse. Liora tried to ignore her, tried to focus on Kael, on recovering, on proving she wasn't a burden, but it was hard, especially when she started having the dreams. The first one came a week after she'd arrived. She was standing in a forest she didn't recognize. The trees were massive, ancient, their roots twisted and gnarled. The air smelled like smoke and copper. Someone was calling her name. She turned and saw a figure in the distance, tall, cloaked, face hidden in shadow. Liora. The voice was familiar, but she couldn't place it. She started walking toward the figure. The closer she got, the colder the air became. Her breath misted in front of her face. Her fingers went numb. The figure raised a hand, and the forest exploded into flame. She woke up gasping, drenched in sweat, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack a rib. Ronan was there. He'd fallen asleep in the chair beside her bed again, something he did more often than she wanted to admit. He jerked awake at the sound of her breathing. What happened? Nothing, just a dream. You're shaking. She was. She wrapped her arms around herself and tried to steady her breathing. Ronan leaned forward. What did you see? I don't know. A forest. Fire. Someone I couldn't see. His expression darkened. Did they say anything? Just my name. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and moved to the window, staring out at the mountains. The poison, he said slowly. It's not just physical. It's connected to something. Someone. Leora's chest tightened. What do you mean? Kael was poisoned during a raid. We thought it was random, wrong place, wrong time. But the more I think about it, the less sense it makes. The attackers knew exactly where to find him. They knew exactly how to get past our defenses. And the poison they used. He turned to face her. It's not natural. It's designed, crafted. By who? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Liora pulled her knees up to her chest. You think whoever poisoned Kael is in my dreams? I think the poison is a link, and whoever made it might be using it to watch, to listen, to find you. The words hung in the air like a noose. So what do? You fight it, and you don't let it win. Easier said than done. The dreams got worse. Every night, the same forest, the same voice, the same fire. But each time, the figure got closer. And each time, Liora woke up more exhausted than before. Her body was deteriorating. The veins had spread to her shoulders now, creeping toward her neck. She could barely eat, could barely walk without feeling like her legs were going to give out. Marin cornered her in the hall one morning. "You need to leave." Liora didn't have the energy to argue. "I'm trying. Try harder. You're killing yourself. And when you finally collapse, Ronan's going to tear this place apart trying to save you. We can't afford that." "I didn't ask for this." "No, but you're here anyway, and you're making it everyone else's problem." Liora's hands clenched into fists. "I saved Kyle's life, and now you're stealing it back." The words hit like a slap. Before Liora could respond, Marin turned and walked away. Liora stood there, shaking, her vision blurring. She wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to run, but she couldn't do any of those things, so she just stood there until Ronan found her. He didn't say anything, just took one look at her face and pulled her into his arms. She didn't cry. She was too tired to cry, but she let herself lean against him, just for a moment, and pretend that someone actually gave a damn whether she lived or died. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Yes, you can. I'm not strong enough. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You don't know me." "I know enough." She pulled back, looked up at him. His eyes were so steady, so certain. "Why do you care?" she asked. "Why does it matter to you if I live or die?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked at her, like he was trying to find the right words. Finally, he said, "Because when I found you in that clearing, bleeding in the snow with chains around your wrists, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time." "What?" "Someone who refused to break." Liora's throat tightened. Everyone else in that pack had given up, Ronan continued. "They were cruel because they were broken. They hurt you because they couldn't hurt the world that had hurt them. But you—" He reached up, brushed a strand of hair out of her face. "You didn't let them break you. You survived, and that's worth saving." Liora didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. And for the first time in weeks, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she could survive this too. That night, the dream was different. She was in the forest again. But this time, the figure wasn't calling her name. It was waiting for her. She walked toward it, her heart pounding, her hands shaking. The closer she got, the clearer the figure became. It was a man, tall, elegant, dressed in dark robes that shimmered like oil on water. His face was sharp, aristocratic, with pale skin and eyes so dark they looked black. He smiled when he saw her. "There you are." Liora stopped. "Who are you?" "Someone who's been looking for you for a very long time." "Why?" "Because you're special, Liora. More special than you know." She took a step back. "Stay away from me." He laughed. It was a soft, musical sound that made her skin crawl. "You think you can run from me? You think Ronan Valkyr can protect you?" He stepped closer. "The poison inside you is mine. It's a part of me, and as long as it's inside you, I can find you, I can see you, I can reach you." Liora's breathing quickened. "What do you want?" "I want you to come to me, willingly." "Never." His smile widened. "We'll see." He raised a hand, and the forest exploded into flame. Liora screamed. She woke to hands on her shoulders, shaking her. Liora, wake up." She gasped, her eyes snapping open. Ronan was there, his face inches from hers, his eyes wide with something that looked like fear. "You were screaming," he said. She was still shaking. "I saw him, the one who poisoned Kyle." Ronan went very still. "What did he look like?" She described him, the dark robes, the pale skin, the black eyes. Ronan's face turned to stone. "Valus." "Who?" "Lord Valus. He's a noble from the southern territories, powerful, wealthy, and one of the most dangerous men I've ever met." "Why would he poison Kyle?" "Because he wants my territory, my power, and he knows the easiest way to destroy me is to take away the people I love." Liora's chest tightened. "He said he wants me to come to him, willingly. That's not going to happen. He said he can reach me, through the poison." Ronan's jaw clenched. "Then we cut the connection." "How?" "By getting the poison out of you, now." "I've been trying. Trying isn't enough." He stood, started pacing. There has to be a way, there has to be... He stopped, turned. The old texts, in the library. There's a section on poisons, curses, blood magic. If Valus used something unnatural, there might be a counter-ritual, something we can use. And if there isn't, then we'll find another way. He said it with such certainty that Liora almost believed him. Almost. They spent the next 3 days in the library. It was a massive room, lined floor to ceiling with shelves that seemed to stretch on forever. The air smelled like old paper and dust, and the only light came from the lanterns they brought with them. Ronan pulled book after book, scanning pages written in languages Liora didn't understand. She helped where she could, but mostly she just sat and tried not to think about the black veins crawling further up her neck. On the third day, Ronan found something. Here. He slammed the book down on the table, his finger jabbing at a passage written in faded ink. Liora leaned over. What does it say? It's a counter-ritual for poisons tied to blood magic. It requires 3 things: a source of pure water, a flame blessed by moonlight, and... He trailed off. And what? His jaw tightened. A willing sacrifice. Liora's stomach dropped. What kind of sacrifice? Blood. A lot of it. Whose? He didn't answer. Ronan. Whose blood? He looked at her. Yours. The word hung between them like a blade. You're asking me to bleed myself out. No, I'm asking you to give enough to break the connection. The ritual will do the rest. And if it doesn't work, then we try something else. And if I die? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I won't let that happen. Liora wanted to believe him, but belief was getting harder and harder to hold on to. They performed the ritual that night, in a clearing outside the stronghold, under a sky so full of stars it looked like someone had cracked the world open and let the light pour through. Ronan had gathered everything they needed: a basin of water from a spring deep in the mountains, a fire built from wood soaked in oil and lit under the full moon, and a silver knife so sharp it could split a hair. Liora knelt beside the fire, her hands shaking. Ronan knelt across from her. Are you ready? She wasn't, but she nodded anyway. He took her hand, turned it palm up, and pressed the blade against her wrist. This is going to hurt. I know. He cut. The pain was immediate, sharp, white-hot. Blood welled up, dark and thick, and dripped into the basin. Ronan began to speak, words in a language she didn't know, low and rhythmic, like a prayer. The fire flared, the water in the basin began to glow, and the poison inside Liora screamed. It wasn't a sound she heard with her ears. It was deeper than that. A vibration in her bones, a shriek in her blood. The black veins on her arms began to burn. She gasped, tried to pull away, but Ronan held her hand steady. Don't stop. Stay with me. The fire grew hotter, the water brighter. And then, all at once, the poison moved. It surged out of her, black and writhing, pouring from the cut on her wrist like smoke. It hit the water and dissolved, hissing and spitting, until there was nothing left but steam. Liora collapsed forward, gasping. Ronan caught her. It's done, he said. It's over. But even as he said it, Liora felt something shift. A presence, watching. And then, from somewhere far away, she heard a voice. Valus. You think you've won? You've only made this more interesting. The fire went out. And in the darkness, Liora heard footsteps. The footsteps came from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Ronan's hand went to the blade at his hip, and he pulled Liora behind him in one sharp motion. The clearing was dark now. The fire had gone out completely, leaving only the faint glow of the moon filtering through the trees. Stay close to me, Ronan said, his voice low. Liora's legs were shaking so badly she could barely stand, but she nodded. The poison was gone. She could feel the absence of it, like a weight lifted off her chest. But the exhaustion that replaced it was bone deep. Her wrist was still bleeding, warm blood dripping down her fingers. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice cut through the darkness. Ronan Valkyr, still playing hero, I see. It wasn't Valus. The voice was different, rougher, colder. Familiar in a way that made Liora's stomach drop. Ronan's entire body went rigid. Calder, Liora's breath caught. From the shadows at the edge of the clearing, a figure stepped forward. He was bigger than she remembered, broader, his face twisted into something uglier than the last time she'd seen him. Behind him came more figures, a dozen at least, maybe more, all armed, all moving with the lazy confidence of predators who knew their prey couldn't run. Calder grinned when he saw her. There she is, the little freak who thought she could just walk away. Ronan shifted, putting himself fully between Liora and Calder. You're a long way from your territory. So are you. This is my land. You're trespassing. Calder shrugged. Doesn't matter. I'm not leaving without what's mine. She's not yours. She was born in my pack. That makes her mine. She left. You let her go. I let you take her. Big difference. Calder spat into the dirt. You think I didn't notice when one of your scouts started sniffing around my borders 3 months ago? You think I didn't put it together when you showed up asking about the girl who takes pain? Ronan's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. Calder's grin widened. You've been planning this for a while, haven't you? Looking for her? Probably heard the stories and thought, hey, that sounds useful. So you came, you made your little deal, and you took her. And I let you, because I wanted to see what you'd do with her. You let me because you knew I'd kill you if you tried to stop me. Maybe. Calder tilted his head. But now she's served her purpose, hasn't she? Your brother's not dying anymore. So what do you need her for? That's not your concern. It is when she belongs to me. Ronan's hand tightened on his blade. She doesn't belong to anyone. Wrong. Calder's eyes flicked to Liora. She's pack property, and I'm taking her back. Liora's heart was hammering so hard she thought it might burst. She stepped forward, her voice shaking but loud enough to carry. I'm not going anywhere with you. Calder laughed. You don't get a choice, freak. Yes, she does, Ronan said. No, she doesn't. Calder gestured to the men behind him. I brought 20 wolves. You're alone. Do the math. I'm not alone, Calder raised an eyebrow. You think your fortress guards are going to get here in time? We're half a mile out. By the time they hear the fighting, it'll be over. Ronan didn't move. Then I'll make sure it's over fast. Calder's grin faded. You really want to die for her? If that's what it takes? For a moment, no one moved. Then Calder sighed. Fine. Have it your way. He raised a hand, and his wolves charged. Ronan moved faster than Liora thought possible. He met the first wolf head-on, his blade flashing in the moonlight. The man went down with a scream, clutching his throat. The second wolf came from the side, and Ronan spun, slashing low, taking out the man's legs. But there were too many. They swarmed him, coming from every direction, and even as he fought, cutting, dodging, moving with a speed and precision that was almost inhuman, Liora could see he was being overwhelmed. One of them broke through, coming straight for her. She stumbled backward, tripped over a root, and hit the ground hard. The wolf loomed over her, a massive man with a scarred face and a blade in each hand. Nothing personal, girl. He raised the blade. And then a rock hit him in the temple. He staggered, more surprised than hurt, and turned. Kyle was standing at the edge of the clearing, pale and shaking, leaning heavily on a crutch. He looked like he might collapse at any second, but he was there. Get away from her, Kyle said. The wolf laughed. You can barely stand. Good thing I don't need to stand to kill you. Kale raised his hand, and fire exploded from his palm. The wolf screamed and stumbled back, his clothes burning. Kale swayed, nearly fell, but caught himself against a tree. Liora scrambled to her feet and ran to him. What are you doing here? Saving your life, you're welcome. You shouldn't be out of bed. Yeah, well, I heard the screaming and figured something was wrong. He grinned weakly. Turns out I was right. Another wolf lunged at them. Kale threw another burst of fire, but it was weaker this time, barely enough to singe the man's sleeve. The wolf didn't even slow down. Liora grabbed a branch from the ground and swung it as hard as she could. It connected with the side of the wolf's head with a sickening crack. The man dropped like a stone. Kale stared at her. Did you just... Shut up and keep throwing fire. I'm out. What? I told you, I just got out of bed. I'm running on fumes here. Leora's heart sank. She looked around. Ronan was still fighting, but he was bleeding now. a gash across his shoulder, another on his leg. The wolves were closing in. They were going to lose. And then, from the direction of the stronghold, she heard a sound that made her chest flood with relief. Howls, dozens of them. The wolves. Ronan's wolves. They came pouring into the clearing like a flood, men and women in dark armor, weapons drawn, faces set in grim determination. At the front was Marin, her blade already slick with blood. "Sorry we're late," she called out. "Traffic." The tide turned instantly. Calder's wolves tried to regroup, tried to hold the line, but they were outnumbered now, outmatched. Within minutes, half of them were on the ground, dead or dying. The rest scattered into the woods. Calder himself was still standing, his face twisted in rage. Ronan stepped toward him, bleeding but steady. "Leave, now. And don't come back." Calder spat blood. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is. You think you can protect her forever? You think she's worth all this?" Ronan didn't hesitate. "Yes." Calder stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned and ran. Ronan didn't chase him. He just stood there, breathing hard until the sounds of fighting faded completely. Then he turned to Liora. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, even though her hands were still shaking. "I'm fine." "You're bleeding." She looked down. Her wrist was still dripping blood from the ritual. "It's from before. I'm fine." Ronan crossed to her in 3 long strides, took her hand, and wrapped it tightly in a strip of cloth torn from his shirt. "You're not fine. You're exhausted, and you almost died." "So did you." "That's different." "How?" "Because I'm used to it." Liora wanted to argue, but she was too tired. Kael limped over, still leaning on the crutch. "So, that was fun." Ronan glared at him. "You should be in bed." "Probably, but if I hadn't come, your girlfriend would be dead." "She's not my—" Ronan stopped, took a breath. "Thank you." Kael grinned. "You're welcome." Marin approached, wiping her blade clean. She looked at Liora, then at Ronan. "We need to talk." "Later." "Now." Ronan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He turned to Liora. "Go back to the stronghold, get some rest." "What about you?" "I'll be fine." Liora wanted to argue, but she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, so she just nodded. Kael put a hand on her shoulder. "Come on, I'll walk you back." "You can barely walk yourself." "Then we'll hobble together." By the time they made it back to the stronghold, the sun was starting to rise. The sky was turning pale gray, and the air smelled like smoke and blood. Kael left her at her door with a tired smile and a promise to check on her later. Liora went inside, collapsed onto the bed, and was asleep before her head hit the pillow. But she woke to the sound of shouting. At first she thought she was dreaming, but the voices were too loud, too angry, too real. She sat up, her head pounding, and stumbled to the door. The hall outside was full of people. Guards, servants, wolves she didn't recognize. They were all talking at once, their voices overlapping in a chaotic mess. "Can't trust her. Brought Calder right to us. She's a danger to everyone." Leora's stomach dropped. They were talking about her. She pushed through the crowd, trying to get to the source of the noise. People stepped back when they saw her, their faces twisted in anger or fear or disgust. At the end of the hall, in the main council room, she found Ronan. He was standing in the center of the room, surrounded by a dozen of his most trusted wolves. Marin was there, her arms crossed, her expression cold. Kael was there too, leaning against the wall, looking pale but defiant. And across from Ronan, standing with his arms crossed and a smug smile on his face, was a man Liora had never seen before. He was tall, elegant, with pale skin and dark eyes. He wore robes that shimmered like oil on water. Veilous. Leora's blood turned to ice. Ronan saw her and his expression shifted. Worry, anger, something else she couldn't name. "Liora, get out of here." "No." Veilous turned, and when he saw her, his smile widened. "Ah, there she is. The girl who's caused so much trouble." Leora's hands clenched into fists. "What are you doing here?" "I came to make an offer." "We don't want anything from you," Ronan said. "Oh, I think you do." Veilous gestured around the room. "Your people are scared, Ronan. They think the girl is a liability. They think she's going to bring more danger to your doorstep. And they're right. She's not the danger. You are. True, but I'm not the one they're afraid of. Velis stepped closer to Liora. I poisoned your brother, yes, but I didn't do it alone. I had help from someone inside your own walls. The room went silent. Ronan's face darkened. You're lying. Am I? Velis tilted his head. Tell me, Ronan, who knew you were going to that clearing tonight? Who knew you'd be alone, vulnerable, performing a ritual that would leave you weakened? Ronan didn't answer. Velis smiled. Someone told me. Someone in this room. The tension in the air was suffocating. Liora looked around. Everyone was staring at everyone else, suspicion crawling across their faces like a disease. You're trying to divide us, Ronan said. I'm telling you the truth. There's a traitor among you, and as long as the girl stays here, more people will die. Then leave, Liora said. Velis turned to her. I will. If you come with me. Ronan moved in front of her instantly. No. It's not your choice. It's hers. Velis looked past Ronan, directly at Liora. Come with me willingly, and I'll leave this place in peace. I'll call off my wolves. I'll stop the attacks. No one else has to die. And if I don't, then I'll burn this stronghold to the ground, everyone inside it, starting with the people you care about. Liora's heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear. Ronan turned to her, his eyes desperate. Don't listen to him. He's going to kill you. Let him try. I can't. Her voice broke. I can't watch you die for me. You won't. You don't know that. Ronan grabbed her shoulders, forced her to look at him. Listen to me. You are not going with him. I don't care what he threatens. I don't care what he promises. You stay here with me. Tears burned in her eyes. Why? Because He stopped, took a breath. Because you matter. To me. To Kyle. To everyone here. And I'm not letting him take you. Velis laughed. How touching, but it doesn't change the facts. The girl is a danger, and as long as she's here, you're all at risk. Marin stepped forward. He's right. Ronan's head snapped toward her. What? She's a liability, Ronan. She brought Calder here. She brought Velis here. How many more enemies are going to show up because of her? That's not her fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's happening, and we can't keep risking lives for one person. She saved Kale's life, and now she's putting everyone else's at risk. Ronan's jaw clenched. You don't mean that. Marin's expression was hard. I do. The room erupted into argument. Half the wolves agreed with Marin. The other half shouted them down. It was chaos. And in the middle of it all, Liora felt something inside her snap. Stop! Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned to look at her. She stepped forward out of Ronan's reach. If my being here puts you all in danger, then I'll leave. Liora, no. She looked at Ronan. I won't let you die for me. I won't let any of you die for me. I've spent my whole life being a burden. I'm not doing it anymore. You're not a burden. Yes, I am. Tears streamed down her face. And I'm done pretending I'm not. She turned to Velis. I'll come with you, on one condition. Velis raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. You swear on whatever honor you have left that you'll leave this place alone, forever. No more attacks, no more poison, no more anything. Velis smiled. Done. Liora, don't do this, Ronan said. She didn't look at him. She couldn't. Do we have a deal? She asked Velis. We do. Then let's go. Velis extended a hand. Ronan grabbed her arm. Please don't. She finally looked at him. His eyes were desperate, pleading. I'm sorry, she whispered, and then she took Velis's hand. The world went white. When the light faded, Liora was standing in a room she didn't recognize. It was large, circular, with walls made of black stone and no windows. The only light came from candles arranged in a circle on the floor. Velis let go of her hand and stepped back. Welcome, he said, to your new home. Leora's stomach churned. Where are we? My estate. Far enough from Ronan's territory that he won't find you. At least, not for a while. You said you'd leave them alone. And I will, as long as you cooperate. Cooperate with what? Bayless smiled. Sit down. We have a lot to discuss. Liora didn't sit. She just stared at him, her hands shaking. You're wondering why I went to so much trouble to get you here, Bayless said. It's simple, really. You're special, Liora. More special than you know. I'm not special. I'm just a human who can absorb the pain and sickness of others. A human who survived poison that should have killed her in hours. A human who can push that poison back out and weaponize it. Bayless circled her slowly. You're not just special. You're unique. Liora's throat tightened. I didn't weaponize anything. Not yet, but you will. I won't. You will, because I'm going to teach you. He stopped in front of her. You spent your whole life being used, Liora, being hurt, being treated like a tool. But what if I told you that you could be so much more? What if I told you that the power inside you, the power to take pain, to absorb it, to carry it, could be turned into something devastating? I don't want that. Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet. He leaned closer. Imagine being able to take every ounce of suffering you've ever endured and give it back. Not just to the people who hurt you, to everyone. Imagine being able to walk into a room and make your enemies feel every moment of agony you've ever felt, all at once. Liora's heart was pounding. That's not power. That's cruelty. Power is cruelty, and you deserve to wield it. No. Yes. His voice hardened. You're going to learn, Liora, whether you want to or not, because I didn't bring you here to be my guest. I brought you here to be my weapon. Liora took a step back. I'll never help you. You won't have a choice. He raised a hand and the candles around the room flared. Liora felt something wrap around her wrists. Not chains, but something invisible, something cold and tight. She tried to pull away, but she couldn't move. Bayless smiled. Let's begin. Back at the stronghold, Ronan stood in the center of the council room, staring at the spot where Liora had been. His hands were shaking, his chest was tight. She was gone. Kyle limped over, put a hand on his shoulder. We'll get her back. Ronan didn't answer. Maren crossed her arms. We don't even know where Vales took her. Then we'll find out. How? Ronan turned, his eyes blazing. I don't care what it takes. I don't care how long it takes. We're getting her back. She went willingly. Because he threatened to kill us. That's not a choice. That's coercion. Maren was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. So what's the plan? Ronan's jaw tightened. We go to war. The first 3 days in Vales's estate were the worst of Liora's life, and she'd had a lot of bad days to compare them to. He kept her in the circular room with the black stone walls. No windows. No natural light. Just the candles and the cold and the invisible bindings that kept her from moving more than a few feet in any direction. He came every few hours to test her. That's what he called it. Testing. Liora called it torture. He'd bring in animals, rats, rabbits, once a fox with its leg caught in a trap, and force her to absorb their pain, not to heal them, just to take the suffering and hold it inside herself until she thought she'd go mad from it. Feel it, he'd say, standing over her while she shook and gasped and bit down screams. Learn its shape, its weight. That's the first step. The first step to what? She'd managed to choke out once. To mastery. She didn't want mastery. She wanted to go home. Except she didn't have a home. Not really. The Hale Pack had never been home. Ronan's stronghold had felt like it could be, for a while, but she'd walked away from that. She'd chosen this. The thought made her want to scream. On the 4th day, Vales brought something different. A man, bound and gagged, his eyes wide with terror. He had the look of a soldier, scarred, muscular, probably mid-30s. He struggled against the ropes, making muffled sounds behind the gag. Vales shoved him to his knees in front of Liora. Today we try something new. Leora's stomach turned. What are you doing? Teaching you control. Vales crouched beside the man, ran a finger along the soldier's temple. This man is dying, slowly. I poisoned him this morning. The same poison I used on Kale Valkyr. You remember how that felt, don't you? Leora's blood ran cold. Don't. You're going to absorb it, just like you did with Kyle, but this time you're not going to let it go. Vales smiled. You're going to hold it, shape it, and then, when I tell you to, you're going to give it back to him, all at once. I won't. Yes, you will. He grabbed her wrist and pressed her hand against the man's shoulder. The poison hit her like a freight train. It was worse than she remembered, sharper, faster, more vicious. It tore through her veins like broken glass, shredding everything in its path. She screamed, tried to pull away, but Valus held her hand in place. Don't fight it. Pull it in, all of it. She didn't have a choice. The poison came whether she wanted it or not, flooding into her body until the man's breathing eased and the black veins on his skin faded. He sagged forward, gasping, alive. Liora collapsed to the floor, shaking violently. The poison writhed inside her, alive and angry, searching for a way out. Valus knelt beside her. Good. Now hold it. I can't. You can. You've done it before. You held it for weeks when you saved Kael. Now do it again. Why? Because I'm going to teach you how to weaponize it. He grabbed her hand again and forced it against the soldier's chest. Push it back. All of it. At once. No. Do it. His voice was sharp, commanding, and something in Liora's brain obeyed before she could stop herself. She pushed. The poison exploded out of her like a dam breaking. It slammed into the soldier with the force of a landslide, and he convulsed, his eyes rolling back, his body seizing. Within seconds, he was dead. Liora stared at his corpse, her hands shaking, bile rising in her throat. What did you do? She whispered. I didn't do anything. You did. I didn't mean... Intention doesn't matter. Power does. Valus stood, brushed off his robes. You just killed a man with nothing but your touch. Do you understand what that means? Liora couldn't breathe, couldn't think. It means you're exactly what I thought you were. A weapon. And now that you know what you're capable of, we can begin the real work. He left her there, alone with the body, while the candles flickered and the walls seemed to close in. She didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the soldier's face, heard his muffled screams, felt the poison tearing through him because she had put it there. She'd killed him. Not Valus. Her. The thought made her sick. But somewhere beneath the horror, beneath the guilt, something else stirred. Anger. Because Valus was right about one thing. She'd been powerless her entire life. Used, beaten, discarded. And for the first time, she'd done something that made someone else feel that helplessness. She hated that it felt good, even just for a second. Valus came back the next morning with food. Real food. Bread, cheese, some kind of stew that actually smelled decent. He set it down in front of her like an offering. Liora didn't touch it. You need to eat. I'm not hungry. You will be. Starving yourself won't change anything. She looked up at him. Why are you doing this? I told you. I'm teaching you. No. Why do you want me to be a weapon? What's the point? Valus sat down across from her, folding his hands in his lap. For a moment, he almost looked human. Because the world is full of people like Ronan Valkyr, he said quietly. People who take power and hoard it, who decide who gets to live and who gets to suffer. And I'm tired of watching them win. So you're going to use me to kill them. I'm going to use you to balance them, to show them that power doesn't just belong to alphas and warriors and kings. It belongs to anyone willing to take it. That's not balance. That's revenge. Maybe, but revenge has its place. Liora stared at him. You're insane, Valus smiled. Probably, but I'm also right. He stood, brushed off his robes again. Eat. Rest. Tomorrow we'll continue. But tomorrow didn't come the way he planned. Because that night, Liora did something she hadn't done since she was 16. She tried to escape. The bindings around her wrists were magic. She'd figured that out days ago. They tightened whenever she pulled against them, and they burned if she struggled too hard. But they were also tied to the candles. She'd noticed that the flames flickered whenever the bindings tightened, like they were connected somehow. So she waited until Valus was gone. Until the guards outside the door had settled into their usual bored silence. And then she knocked over the closest candle. The flames sputtered, dimmed, and the bindings loosened. Not much, just enough. Liora pulled, hard. The bindings burned, searing into her skin, but she bit down on the pain and pulled harder. They snapped. She nearly sobbed with relief. Moving quickly, she knocked over the rest of the candles, plunging the room into darkness. The door wasn't locked. Violet was arrogant enough to think the bindings were enough, and she slipped out into the hallway beyond. The estate was massive. Hallways branched off in every direction, lined with doors and tapestries and statues she didn't recognize. She didn't know where she was going, didn't have a plan. She just ran. She made it 3 hallways before she heard footsteps behind her. "Stop her!" Leora's heart lurched. She ran faster, her bare feet slapping against the cold stone, her lungs burning. A guard stepped out in front of her. She didn't slow down, just lowered her shoulder and slammed into him as hard as she could. He staggered, more surprised than hurt, and she shoved past him. Another hallway, another turn, and then she saw it. A door, larger than the others, with light spilling out from underneath. She didn't think, just ran straight for it and threw it open. Inside was a room full of maps, dozens of them, spread across tables, pinned to walls, marked with symbols and notes she didn't understand. And in the center of the room, leaning over one of the maps, was a man she recognized, Calder. He looked up when she burst in, his eyes widening. "Well, this is awkward." Liora froze. Before she could move, the guards caught up, grabbing her by the arms and dragging her backward. She fought, kicked, screamed, but there were too many of them. Valus appeared in the doorway, his expression calm. "Bring her back to the room, and double the bindings this time." "Wait," Calder said. Valus turned. "What?" Calder stepped forward, his eyes locked on Liora. "Let me talk to her." "Why?" "Because I know her, and I know how to make her cooperate." Valus studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Fine. You have 10 minutes. The guards dragged Liora back to the circular room and chained her to the floor. This time the bindings were tighter, heavier, wrapped around her wrists and ankles. Calder came in a few minutes later, alone. He stood in the doorway, looking at her. "You look like hell." "Go to hell," he laughed. "Still got some fight in you. Good. What are you doing here?" "Working, same as you." "I'm not working. I'm a prisoner." "Yeah, I noticed." He crouched down in front of her. "Here's the thing, Liora. Valus isn't going to let you go. You know that, right? He's going to keep you here until you do what he wants, or until you die trying. Then I'll die." "No, you won't, because you're too stubborn for that." He tilted his head. "But there's another option." "I'm not interested." "You should be, because it's the only way you're getting out of here alive." Liora glared at him. "What do you want?" "I want you to help me kill him." The words hung in the air between them. Liora stared. "What?" "Valus, I want him dead." "And you're the only one who can do it." "Why would I help you?" "Because I can get you out of here. Back to Ronan. Back to wherever the hell you want to go. But only if you help me first." Leora's mind was spinning. "Why do you want him dead?" "Because he's using me. Same way he's using you. He promised me territory, power, a place in his new world order, or whatever the hell he's building. But I'm not an idiot. Once he's done with me, I'm dead. So I'd rather kill him first." "And you think I'm going to trust you?" "No, but you don't have a lot of options right now." He wasn't wrong. Liora looked down at the chains around her wrists, thought about the soldier, about Ronan, about everything she'd lost. "How?" she said quietly. Calder smiled. "The same way you killed that soldier. You take his poison. You hold it. And when the time is right, you give it back to him, all at once. He'll see it coming. Not if we're smart about it. He trusts me. I can get close, and when I do, you'll be ready." Leora's heart was pounding. "And if this doesn't work, then we're both dead." Calder stood. "But at least we'll go down swinging." They waited 3 days. Calder came and went, playing the loyal ally, feeding Valus information, keeping him distracted. Liora stayed in the circular room pretending to be broken, compliant, defeated. It wasn't hard. She felt all of those things. But beneath the exhaustion, beneath the fear, something else was building. Rage. Not the hot, explosive kind, the cold, patient kind. the kind that waited for the right moment and then struck without mercy. On the third night, Velis came to her room with another test. This time, it was a woman, middle-aged, terrified, begging through her gag. "Same as before," Velis said. "Take the poison, hold it, return it." Liora didn't argue. She just nodded. Velis smiled. "Good, you're learning." He pressed her hand against the woman's arm. The poison flooded in. But this time, Liora didn't just hold it. She shaped it. She pulled it into herself, compressed it, twisted it into something sharp and focused. And then she held it there, waiting. Velis was watching her, his expression pleased. "Excellent. Now give it back." Liora looked up at him and smiled. "No." His expression shifted. "What?" "I said no." She lunged. It wasn't graceful, wasn't planned. She just threw herself forward, her chained hands reaching for his wrist. She caught it, and she pushed. Every ounce of poison she'd been holding, every drop of suffering she'd absorbed over the past week, slammed into him at once. Velis screamed. He staggered backward, his eyes wide, black veins spreading across his skin like wildfire. He tried to pull away, but Liora held on, her fingers digging into his wrist, her teeth gritted. "How does it feel?" she hissed. He gasped, tried to speak, couldn't. The door burst open. Guards poured in. But before they could reach her, Calder was there, his blade flashing. He cut down the first guard, then the second, moving with brutal efficiency. "Liora, let go!" She couldn't. The poison was still pouring out of her, and she couldn't stop it. Calder grabbed her shoulder, yanked her back. The connection broke. Velis collapsed to the floor, convulsing, his skin gray, his breathing shallow. He wasn't dead, but he was close. Calder grabbed Leora's arm. "We need to move. Now." "What about him?" "Leave him. He's done." Liora hesitated. Then she nodded. They ran. Done. The estate was chaos. Guards shouted, alarms rang, footsteps echoed in every direction. Calder led her through a maze of hallways, moving fast, his blade ready. "Where are we going?" "The stables. There's a way out through the east gate. If we move fast, we can—" An arrow slammed into the wall beside them. Calder cursed, shoved Liora behind him. More guards appeared, blocking the hallway ahead. "We're trapped," Liora said. "Not yet." He grabbed her hand and pulled her through a side door. They stumbled into a room full of crates and barrels, dimly lit, smelling like oil and wood. Calder slammed the door shut, shoved a crate in front of it. "That won't hold them long." "I know." He turned to her, his expression grim. "Listen, there's a tunnel, behind that wall. It leads outside the estate, into the woods. You take it, run, don't look back." "What about you?" "I'll hold them off." "You'll die." "Probably, but at least you won't." Liora stared at him. This man who'd beaten her, starved her, treated her like garbage for 10 years. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you helping me?" Calder's jaw tightened. "Because I'm tired of being a monster. And if I'm going to die, I'd rather die doing something that doesn't make me hate myself." The door shook. The guards were breaking through. Calder shoved a crate aside, revealing a narrow opening in the wall. "Go!" Liora hesitated. Then she grabbed his arm. "Thank you." He nodded. "Now go." She crawled through the tunnel. Behind her, she heard the door break open, heard Calder shout, heard the clash of steel. And then she was outside in the cold night air, running into the trees. She ran until her legs gave out. Then she walked. Stumbled, crawled when she had to. The sun was rising when she finally collapsed at the base of a tree, her body too exhausted to move. She didn't know where she was, didn't know which direction to go. But she was free. She closed her eyes. And then she heard a voice. "Liora." She looked up. Ronan was standing over her, his face haggard, his clothes torn and bloody. Behind him were Kael and Marin, and at least a dozen other wolves. He dropped to his knees beside her. "You're alive." She nodded, too tired to speak. He pulled her into his arms, held her so tightly she thought her ribs might crack. "I thought I'd lost you," he said, his voice rough. "I'm okay," she whispered. "You're not. but you will be. Kale limped over, grinning. Told you she'd survive. Maren crossed her arms, but there was something softer in her expression now. You're tougher than I thought. Liora tried to smile. Thanks. Ronan pulled back, looked her in the eyes. What happened? I killed Valus, or almost killed him. I don't know if he's dead. He will be, Maren said coldly. We're going back to finish the job. No, Ronan said. We're going home. All of us. He lifted Liora into his arms, and she didn't protest. As they walked back through the forest, the sun rising behind them, Liora felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The journey back to the stronghold took 2 days. Liora slept through most of it, her body finally giving out after weeks of torture and poison and fear. Ronan carried her the entire way, refusing to let anyone else take her even when Kale pointed out that he looked like he was about to collapse himself. I've got her, was all Ronan said. And he did. When Liora finally woke, she was in a bed. The same bed she'd slept in before, soft, warm, clean. Sunlight was streaming through the window, and for a moment she thought she was dreaming. Then the door opened and Ronan walked in. He looked better than he had in the forest, cleaned up, bandaged, rested, but his eyes were still worried. You're awake. She nodded, her throat too dry to speak. He poured her a cup of water and handed it to her. She drank it in 3 gulps. How long was I out? Almost a full day. The healers said you needed it. Healers? We have 3. They've been checking on you every few hours. He sat down in the chair beside the bed. How do you feel? Liora took stock. Her body ached in about 1,000 places, and her wrists were bandaged where the bindings had burned her. But the poison was gone, completely gone. She could feel the absence of it like a weight lifted. Better, she said. Tired, but better. Good. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Liora said, Is Valus dead? Ronan's expression darkened. We sent scouts back to his estate. The place was in chaos, guards fleeing, fires burning. They found his body in the circular room where you were kept. So he's dead. Yes. Liora exhaled slowly. She thought she'd feel relief, or satisfaction, or something. Instead, she just felt empty. What about Calder? Ronan's jaw tightened. Dead. We found him in the hallway outside the room where you escaped. He'd taken down 6 guards before they killed him. Liora closed her eyes. He helped me. At the end. He didn't have to, but he did. I know. I hated him for so long, and then he just changed. People do that sometimes, when they're facing the end. Liora opened her eyes, looked at Ronan. Do you think he meant it? What he said about being tired of being a monster? I think he wanted to. Whether he would have followed through if he'd lived? Ronan shrugged. We'll never know. Liora nodded. It would have to be enough. But over the next few days, Liora slowly recovered. The healers came and went, checking her wounds, making sure the poison hadn't left any lasting damage. Kyle visited every afternoon, bringing food and bad jokes and stories about the chaos that had erupted in the stronghold while she'd been gone. You should have seen Ronan, Kale said, grinning. He turned into a complete tyrant, barking orders, threatening to execute anyone who suggested we wait for reinforcements. Maren almost quit. I did not almost quit, Maren said from the doorway. She walked in, her arms crossed, her expression as cold as ever. But there was something different in her eyes now, something softer. I simply pointed out that charging into enemy territory without a plan was idiotic. And Ronan told you to shut up and get ready to march, Kyle added. Maren's mouth twitched, almost a smile. He did. Liora looked at her. You came anyway. Of course I did. He's my alpha. And you? She paused. You saved Kyle. That earns you something. What? Respect. Maren's gaze was steady. I was wrong about you. You're not a liability. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. And I'm sorry I didn't see that sooner. Leora's throat tightened. Thank you. Maren nodded. Then she turned and walked out, leaving Liora and Kyle staring after her. Did she just apologize? Kyle said. I think so. That's unprecedented. Liora laughed. It felt good. like something inside her was finally starting to heal. What? But the recovery wasn't just physical. The nightmares came every night. Dreams of Velas's estate, of the circular room, of the soldier's face as he died. Dreams of poison crawling under her skin, of chains that wouldn't break, of voices whispering that she was a monster. She woke gasping, drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. And every time, Ronan was there. He didn't ask questions, didn't tell her it was okay or that it would get better. He just sat with her until the shaking stopped, his presence steady and solid. On the 5th night, she finally asked him why. Why do you keep doing this? Doing what? Sitting with me, taking care of me. You don't have to. He looked at her for a long moment, then he said, Yes, I do. Why? Because I care about you. The words hung in the air between them. Leora's chest tightened. You barely know me. I know enough. You don't. You don't know what I did in that place. What he made me do. I know you survived. That's all that matters. I killed someone, Ronan. A soldier. A man who didn't deserve to die. I pushed poison into him and watched him convulse, and I didn't stop until he was dead. Velas forced you to do that. That doesn't change what I did. Ronan leaned forward. You're right, it doesn't, but it also doesn't make you a monster. It makes you human. And humans make mistakes. They do things they regret. They carry guilt. But that doesn't define them. Then what does? What they do next. Liora looked down at her hands. They were still bandaged, still bruised, still shaking. I don't know what to do next, she whispered. Then we'll figure it out together. 2 weeks after her return, Velas's allies made their move. It started with reports from the outer territories. Attacks on villages, supply lines cut, scouts disappearing. At first, Ronan thought it was just opportunistic raiders taking advantage of the chaos. But then the messages started arriving. They were all the same. Short, blunt, threatening. Velas is dead. But his work continues. Surrender the girl, or we burn your kingdom to the ground. Ronan called a council meeting. The room was packed. Every high-ranking wolf in the stronghold, plus representatives from the outer territories. The tension was thick enough to cut. Marin stood at Ronan's side, her expression grim. Kale sat near the back, still pale but recovering, and Liora stood in the center of the room. Ronan had asked her to be there. She hadn't wanted to, but he'd insisted. They need to see you, he'd said. They need to know you're not afraid. She was terrified, but she stood there anyway. Ronan addressed the room. You've all seen the messages. Velas's allies are regrouping. They want Liora, and they're willing to go to war to get her. Then give her to them, someone said. The room went silent. Leora's stomach dropped. The speaker was a man named Gregor, one of the older wolves with a scar running down his face and a permanent scowl. He stood up, his arms crossed. We've already lost too many people because of her. How many more have to die before we admit she's not worth it? She saved my brother's life, Ronan said, his voice cold. And now she's endangering everyone else's. That's not a fair trade. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Liora felt like she was going to be sick. Ronan's jaw tightened. She's not going anywhere. That's not your decision to make alone, Gregor said. This is a council. We vote. Fine. Ronan's eyes flashed. Let's vote. Everyone in favor of handing Liora over to her enemies, raise your hand. Half the room raised their hands. Leora's chest tightened. She'd known some people still didn't trust her, but seeing it laid out like this, seeing how many were willing to throw her away, was like a punch to the gut. Everyone opposed? The other half raised their hands. It was almost perfectly split. Gregor smiled. Tie. Which means we table the decision until... No, Liora said. Everyone turned to look at her. Her heart was pounding, but she forced herself to speak. You want to hand me over? Fine, but let me say something first. Ronan started to protest, but she held up a hand. I know what you all think of me. I'm human. I'm weak. I'm a liability. And you're not wrong. I've caused problems. I've brought danger to your doorstep. People have died because of me. The room was silent. But I've also saved lives. I saved Kael. I killed Vela. And I survived things that would have broken most of you. Gregor snorted. That doesn't make you special. No, but it makes me useful. She looked around the room, meeting as many eyes as she could. Valus taught me something in that place. He taught me how to weaponize pain, how to take suffering and turn it into power. And I hated every second of it, but it also showed me what I'm capable of. So what? Gregor said. You're going to threaten us now? No, I'm going to offer you a deal. Ronan's eyes narrowed. Liora. She ignored him. You want Valus's allies gone? I can do that. I can walk into their camp, absorb whatever poison or sickness or pain they throw at me, and I can give it all back at once. The same way I did with Valus. The room erupted into shouting. That's suicide. She'll never survive. It's a trap. Liora raised her voice. Maybe, but it's also the only chance you've got. Because if you hand me over, they'll just kill me and come after you anyway. But if I go willingly on my terms, I can end this. Gregor's expression was skeptical. And why should we believe you can do that? Because I've done it before. She pulled back the sleeve of her shirt, showing the faint scars on her wrist where the bindings had burned her. Valus thought he could control me. He thought he could turn me into his weapon, but I turned the poison back on him. And I'll do the same to anyone else who tries to use me. The room went quiet. Marin stepped forward. If you do this, you'll need backup, a team to extract you if things go wrong. I'll go alone. Absolutely not, Ronan said. It has to be me. If they see anyone else, they'll know it's a trap. Then they'll kill you the moment you walk in. Maybe, but at least I'll go down fighting. Ronan crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed her shoulders. I'm not letting you do this. She looked up at him. It's not your choice. It's mine. His grip tightened. You'll die. Probably, but everyone dies eventually. At least this way it'll mean something. Liora. I've spent my entire life being powerless, Ronan. Let me choose how this ends. His jaw worked. His eyes were desperate, but finally he nodded. On one condition. You take Marin and Kale with you. They stay hidden, but they're there if you need them. Liora hesitated. Then she nodded. Okay. Gregor stood up. This is insane. Maybe, Marin said, but it's also the best plan we've got. They left 2 days later. Liora, Marin, and Kale, plus a small team of scouts who would stay even farther back, watching, ready to report if things went wrong. The enemy camp was 3 days' ride to the south, in a valley surrounded by steep cliffs. Valus's allies had set up there, fortifying their position, waiting. Liora rode in silence, her mind spinning. She wasn't sure if this plan would work, wasn't sure if she'd survive. But she was tired of running, tired of being afraid. If she was going to die, she'd do it on her terms. They reached the valley on the 3rd day. Marin and Kyle stayed hidden in the trees along with the scouts. Liora dismounted, took a deep breath, and started walking toward the camp. The guards saw her coming. They raised their weapons, shouted warnings. She kept walking. One of them stepped forward. Stop. Identify yourself. My name is Liora Hale. I'm here to see your leader. The guard's eyes widened. He turned and shouted to someone behind him. Within minutes, she was surrounded. They didn't kill her. They just escorted her, roughly, into the center of the camp where a man was waiting. He was tall, dark-haired, with a scar across his jaw. He looked at her with cold, calculating eyes. So, you're the girl Valus wanted so badly. Liora nodded. Why are you here? To end this, he laughed. By yourself? Yes. You're either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. He studied her for a long moment. Then he gestured to his men. Chain her. We'll decide what to do with her later. They grabbed her arms, and Liora smiled. I wouldn't do that if I were you. The leader frowned. Why not? Because I'm carrying enough poison to kill everyone in this camp, and if you touch me, I'll let it all out at once. The men hesitated. The leader's expression shifted. You're bluffing. Am I? She reached out and grabbed the nearest guard's wrist. He screamed, collapsing instantly, black veins spreading across his skin. The other guard stumbled back. Liora let go. The guard lay on the ground, gasping, alive but barely. She looked at the leader. I absorbed Valus's poison. All of it. And I've been holding it inside me for 2 weeks, shaping it, concentrating it. Right now, I'm a walking plague. And if you don't leave Ronan's territory alone, I'll make sure every single one of you feels it. The leader's face had gone pale. You'll kill yourself. I know. Then why? Because I'm tired of people like you thinking you can take whatever you want. I'm tired of being used, and I'm tired of being afraid. She stepped closer. So here's the deal. You leave. You take your men, and you go back to whatever hole you crawled out of, and you never come near Ronan's territory again. And if we don't, then I start touching people. The camp was silent. The leader stared at her, his jaw working. Finally, he said, "You're insane." "Probably, but I'm also serious." He looked around at his men, at the guards still gasping on the ground. Then he nodded. "Fine. We'll leave. Swear it." "I swear. On my life." Liora studied him, then she stepped back. "Good. Now get out." The leader turned and started barking orders. Within an hour, the camp was being dismantled. Within 2, they were gone. Liora stood there, alone, until Marin and Kael emerged from the trees. Kael was grinning. "That was the most insane thing I've ever seen." "Did it work?" Liora asked. "They're gone, so yeah, it worked." Marin crossed her arms. "You were bluffing, right, about the poison?" Liora didn't answer. Marin's eyes narrowed. "Liora, please tell me you were bluffing." Liora smiled. "Does it matter?" "Yes." "Then let's just say I'm very good at selling a lie." Kael laughed. Marin looked like she wanted to strangle her, but they were safe. When they returned to the stronghold, Ronan was waiting at the gates. He didn't say anything, just pulled Liora into his arms and held her. "Don't ever do that again," he said. "Okay. I'm serious." "I know." He pulled back, looked at her. "You're insane." "I've been told." He smiled. It was small, tired, but real. "Come on, let's go home." Over the next few months, things settled. The attacks stopped. Velas's allies scattered. The outer territories began to rebuild. And Liora stayed. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Ronan offered her a place in the stronghold, not as a healer, not as a tool, but as a person. She could leave whenever she wanted, do whatever she wanted. For the first time in her life, the choice was hers. She chose to stay. She started training with Marin, learning to fight, to defend herself. She helped in the stronghold, working alongside the other wolves, earning their respect slowly but surely. And she spent time with Ronan, not as alpha and subject, as equals. They talked, walked, sat in silence and watched the sun set over the mountains. And somewhere along the way, the walls she'd built around herself started to come down. One night, as they sat by the fire in his study, Ronan asked her, "Are you happy?" Liora thought about it. About the scars on her wrists, the nightmares that still came, the weight of everything she'd endured. But she also thought about the freedom, the choice, the people who'd fought for her, who'd believed in her when no one else had. "Yeah," she said. "I think I am." Ronan smiled. "Good." He reached out, took her hand. She didn't pull away. A year later, Ronan asked her to marry him. Not because the stronghold expected it, not because it was political, just because he loved her. And because she loved him too. The ceremony was small, quiet. Just the people who mattered, Kael, Marin, a few close friends. Liora wore a simple dress, no crown, no jewelry. She didn't need any of that. When Ronan slipped the ring onto her finger, she looked up at him and thought about how far she'd come. From the girl who'd been beaten and starved and used, to the woman standing here now, free, powerful, loved. She'd carried everyone's pain for so long, but now, finally, she was carrying her own life. And it was enough. Years later, when people told the story of Liora Hale, they called her a queen. But she never thought of herself that way. She was just a girl who'd survived, who'd chosen to fight when it would have been easier to give up, who turned her pain into power, not to hurt others, but to protect the people she loved. And under the cold northern moon, in a stronghold carved into the mountains, she lived, not as a curse, but as a woman who'd earned her place in the world and refused to let anyone take it from her again.